Okay, now that we have a more or less satisfying track, I want to start inserting some test geometry. And you can do that by going to the 3D object panel, and then you can pick one of these objects, maybe just a box, and then that will activate this magic wand tool or this creation tool, and then you can click and drag, and that will start creating a 3D object. And if you release now in this viewport, then you can define the height of the object. Now click again to confirm, and if you go full screen now, then you can see we have a box sitting there in our room, and it fits perfectly to the scene. So if you watch that down here, there's a little white spot on the floor, and the corner of the box, there's almost no sliding at all, so it will probably be a pretty good track. And you can really do a lot of things with these objects. If you go back to your quad view and delete the box by just hitting backspace, you can also insert a plane. And then I want to try to place it on top of this box. So I draw a rectangle here, maybe in that size. And you can see it's currently on the floor. So I disable the creation tool, then pick one of these trackers to see how the size of that is, and then pick my move tool, activate that object, and then grab that and move it to this height roughly, and maybe a little bit more in the center of the box. And after that I want to place a teapot on that plane. So go here, grab the teapot, place it on top of the plane with a matching size. Maybe we can rotate this a little bit. Oops, I didn't mean to rotate the plane. So maybe we can hide it for a second. Now rotate the teapot, and you can select this box again or this plane by going to the object picker and then select the plane and show it, and then grab the teapot and bring it up here so that it stands there on the plane. With right click and drag we can zoom in. And now I want you to go to a different view, and that is the perspective view. And here you have a 3D scene, a perspective scene, and by holding down the command key and then click and drag, we can orbit around. You can see here all these points in 3D space. But we can also right click and then select lock to current camera, or just press L, and that will show you the scene again with a grid. These green objects are the 3D features or the 3D points, and you have the plane and the teapot, and the cool thing is you will have a shadow. And that is the nice thing about the planes. These planes are automatically shadow catchers. If we are still, by the way, in the object panel, if you look down here, we have that plane selected, and it has enabled the catch shadows option, and it will not cast shadows. However, if we select the teapot, this doesn't catch shadows, but it casts shadows. So a plane is automatically a shadow catcher. And if we go back to the quad view or to the quad perspective, which is basically the same as quad view, but instead of the camera we have perspective view with the camera view down here. Let's insert maybe an earthling somewhere in here, and by releasing we can scale him up like so. And because we have the 3D view down here, we can grab these widgets and then just move him around in the room. So maybe that he stands here. And when I see this, I wonder why I don't have a shadow, because normally there will be a shadow on the floor. But now that I think of it, maybe as soon as you insert a plane, then maybe this will be the shadow catcher and the ground isn't anymore. Let's try that. Let's disable that. And there it is. You can see now you automatically have a shadow on the floor. So normally if you insert an object that is sitting there on the floor and you don't have a plane, this object will cast a shadow on the floor. But when you want to have both, you need that plane, and you also need a plane or a ground plane that will receive the shadows of the other objects. So like that. Now if you go full screen to the perspective view, and you can do that by hitting F3 instead of F2, and hit spacebar to play it back, and you can see there is that shadow of that earthling, we have the shadow of the teapot, but of course we cannot see through this box. I mean, we are seeing through this box, excuse me, we cannot see the box. But you can also go and right click and then go to view and then disable the solid meshes option. Now you will have only the wireframes and the shadows. So that is really a nice way to see if your object has any sliding, if the track is good. And I would say it's pretty good and it's pretty usable. And when you would insert a 3D object in your 3D application, do a composite of this, it should be pretty fine. And you can disable the grid by pressing G, like grid. It maybe gives you a better view of this. And if you want to get rid of these annoying green triangles, you can press J to disable the 3D points, and now you only have your two planes and your objects with the shadows and the scene as a backdrop.